The forgotten otter. I still remember the day she arrived, tiny, wide-eyed, clutching nothing but a faded cloth bundle. The villagers whispered among themselves, wondering why Baba Nkem, a respected elder, would take in a child who was not his own. His wife, Mama Chidi, had birthed 3 sons, but she had longed for a daughter. The day little Adana came into their home, she danced with joy, thanking the gods for answering her prayers. Adana was no blood of theirs, but you wouldn't have known it in those early years. Mama Chidi dressed her in fine wrappers, plaited her hair in neat cornos, and taught her the songs of our people. Baba Nkem called her my Ada, and when he brought home roasted maize or palm kernel oil from the market, Adana always got the first share. For a time she was happy, but happiness, as we all know, does not last forever. That changed everything. The shift came like a whisper, a subtle change in the wind. It was the season of heavy rains when Mama Chidi announced she was with child. The whole village celebrated at her age. The pregnancy was unexpected and many saw it as a blessing from the ancestors. Adana, barely 10 at the time, was excited. She followed Mama Chidi everywhere, helping her with chores and talking to the unborn baby in her belly. But as the months passed, I began to notice something. Adana's laughter grew quieter, her footsteps lighter, as if she was trying not to disturb something fragile. When Mama Chidi gave birth to a son, the house erupted in joy. A son, a true heir for Baba Nkem. The naming ceremony was grand, with drummers, kola nuts, and prayers under the great iroko tree. They named him Obina, father's heart. That was the day Adana's place in the home began to change. Daughter no more. It started with small things. The first time, it was a bowl of pounded yam. Before, Adana would sit beside Mama Chidi and eat with the family. But one evening, when she reached for her portion, Mama Chidi frowned. Wait, she said, scooping a second helping onto Baba Nkem's plate, then a third onto Obina's. By the time she turned to Adana, only scraps remained. Another time, the girl came home from the stream, her wrapper soaked from playing in the water. Before, Mama Chidi would have laughed and dried her by the fire. That day she scolded her instead. You are no longer a child, Adana. You must behave. She was only 11. As the months stretched into years, the house that had once been her haven became a place of unspoken rules. She did more chores, she ate last. If Obina cried, it was Adana who got blamed. But the worst came when Baba Nkem fell. That broke everything. Baba Nkem had always been a strong man. When he walked through the village, people greeted him with respect. But sickness does not bow to power. And in his final days, he called the elders to his bedside. I was outside that day, sitting under the ula tree with the other women when we heard Mama Chidi's voice rise like a wailing flute. What do you mean you left land for her? The elders shuffled their feet. Baba Nkem had divided his land, one portion for Obina, one for Adana. It was his final wish. She is not even your real daughter. Mama Chidi cried, you owe her nothing. But Baba Nkem, weak as he was, only looked at her with tired eyes. She is my Ada. Those were the last words he ever spoke. Left. After his burial, the house grew colder. The villagers whispered about what would happen to the land. But in the end, it did not matter. Mama Chidi had already made up her mind. One evening, I saw Adana sitting by the hearth, staring at the flickering flames. Her hair, once neatly plaited, was loose and unkempt. Her wrapper hung on her thin frame. She was 14 now, but she looked smaller, as if she had folded into herself. Then Mama Chidi's voice cut through the silence. You must leave. Adana turned, her face unreadable. Go where? You are old enough to find your way. For a moment she said nothing. Then, slowly, she stood. I remember how she moved, not with the hesitation of a child, but with the grace of someone who had seen the truth long before it was spoken. She did not beg, she did not cry. She picked up her faded cloth bundle, the same one she had carried into the house years ago, and walked into the night that followed. Time passed as it always does. We heard little of Adana in the years that followed. Some said she had gone to live with an aunt in another village. Others whispered she had married a wealthy trader. But one evening, long after Obina had grown into a man and Mama Chidi had grown old, a stranger arrived in the village. She came in a cart drawn by 2 horses, dressed in fine wrappers with golden bangles on her wrists. Her hair was woven into intricate braids. Her skin glowed like the morning sun. But it was her eyes that made us stop. They were the same eyes that had once looked at the flames of Baba Nkem's hearth. She had returned, reclaimed. The news spread fast. Mama Chidi, now frail and bent with age, was helped outside. When she saw Adana, she gasped. Adana, the woman did not answer at first. She simply looked at the house, the place she had once called home. Then, with the calm of someone who had long since made peace with the past, she turned to Obina. I came for what is mine. The land, the inheritance Baba Nkem had given her. The one that had been stolen. Some say she won, others say she left without a fight. But all I know is this: when she walked away that day, she did not look back, and that is how Adana, the forgotten daughter, became a legend in our village.